evening. My name is Wylie and I am one of the members at Pendennis Good News Church. It's my pleasure to be bringing the devotion today, and we're going to be looking at David the Anointed King from 1 Samuel 16. And this is not what I was planning on talking about today, but tonight my wife Jen and our boys Rory and our two eldest boys, Rory and Noah, were doing the Faith in Kids sort of YouTube devotional tonight, and they were talking about David the Anointed King, and I just felt really inspired and encouraged, especially by Jen, that's what I should share about tonight. So we know, if you know about David becoming the king, Samuel was sent to Bethlehem to find the next king, and they went to Jesse and they brought out the first son, Eliab. Now, Eliab's this massive, tall, handsome bloke, reminds me of someone, and that person isn't me, but he wasn't right, even though he was the eldest. And I want to read 1 Samuel 16 verse 7. But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not look on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." Now, Samuel was commanded by God not just to look for who looked like could be the best king, who may seem to have all the kingly attributes, strong, powerful, confident, knowing exactly what the right thing to do is, or seeming at least to know what the right thing to do was. And in the end he chose David, the youngest son, the one who was out tending sheep, the one who had most likely would have come in from the field filthy, smelly, hungry. And yet he was the one who became anointed. And it's interesting that I learned tonight as well that anointed in Hebrew means Messiah, and anointed in Greek means the Christ. And there's all these parallels that we see with David and his David story, let alone the fact that he's part of the lineage of Jesus. But it got a big part of what they were talking tonight, and got me thinking as well, is about how do we choose the people that we follow in life, the people that we are encouraged by in life, that the people that we look to, even in church and friends. Do we look to the person who seems to be the holiest, the person who looks like they do and say the right things? Do we seek people in society who are very much, yes, this is, I'm going to be on the right side of history, I'm going to make sure that I do and say the right thing? But do we know their hearts? Why are people friends with us? Is it because they think that we do and say the right things? Or is it because they got to know us and got to know our hearts? And it can be a very challenging thing, especially as a young believer. And we see this, unfortunately, quite a lot in America, especially, of these pastors who, they build up this massive cult following, but their ego and their sense of their own personal sense of self-worth starts to outweigh the ministry, and that they think that they are maybe bigger, without saying it, that they are bigger than where they are. And this is when God needs to humble us, and God needs to humble them and take them down a peg or two, unfortunately, which we all need to sometimes. So I want to leave you with this today. How are we choosing to follow people? Are we looking at their hearts, or are we looking at the physical nature, or the physical attributes, or even what they seem to be like? Because Jesus was not someone who was much to look at, we're told. He was not rich and powerful. He was famous for his notoriety, because he did everything that at that point in time was wrong. He stepped against all the people in power. He stood against everything that was deemed to be right in society's eyes. He spoke to the people that we're not supposed to speak to. He associated with the people that you're not supposed to associate with. And yet, the ministry that he started is the same ministry that we are aiming to follow, that we are aiming to set our hearts on every single day. And I really pray that we can use this passage to realize that God doesn't look at us. He doesn't look at how nice our houses are. He doesn't look at how good we are at our jobs. He looks at our heart. And our heart needs to be one that wants to follow him. that wants to trust in his promises, that wants to push aside all the things in the world that tell us that we are what's important, that we are special. That I saw something on Instagram today that said the most important thing in life is to be happy. But that's impossible. And if you are constantly set on just making yourself happy, then you are going to be a very selfish and possibly very lonely person. So I really pray that as we go out today, that as we just enjoy whatever's left of the very, very hot and muggy weather. It's the reason I'm doing this outside. It was raining a few seconds ago and unfortunately is not anymore. But I really pray that as we go out today, as we continue on each day, that we will remember that God looks at our hearts and we need to seek him in that. Lord, help I make my heart right, and not right by the world's standards, but right by yours. Amen. Have a lovely day, everybody.